What's going on, NBA 2K fans? This is Pete Toll, aka PT Sports 84, bringing you another video. Today is March 9th, 2023. It is the 8th ratings update today. Obviously, 2K put out a roster update. It has now been 2 weeks since the All-Star break. Basically, the last time games were played was February 16th, or before the All Star break. And so the last update came out February 17th, which they did not count the games from February 16th. So those games were counted in this update. So basically, we're looking at a stats compilation from February 16th to March the 7th or through the 7th. I appreciate that, MO15. Um, let's see. So let's jump into the update. I'm going to cover ratings changes as well as some position changes that got added into this update. Just so everybody knows that's tuning in, nothing retro was updated. I try to check that every time before I get on. Again, no retro update. Hopefully that'll come sometime soon. But let's jump into the current rosters. First team up, Philadelphia 76ers. We get some changes here. One that kind of shocked me, I thought James Harden would have gone up one, considering James Harden averaged 25, 7, and 11 on 44% shooting, 46% from three, but no update here. I guess the roster team didn't think that he needed an upgrade, despite, I thought he did. But Tobias Harris drops -1 to an 81 overall. Struggling a little bit, scoring, being the fourth option. Drops down to 12 points a game, only 4 rebounds. Percentage-wise, he's okay, 58% from the floor. But they drop him down. D'Anthony Melton drops -1 to a 77. Only 7 points a game on 37% field goal percentage. Shake Milton drops as well. After his hot start early in the season due to injuries, he's really kind of dropped down. He's now down to a 76 overall. He goes -1 here. He was up to like a 79 at one point. So back down to a 76, averaging 4.5 points a game on 45% field goal percentage. And then looking at the rest of the roster, we've got, I thought Jalen McDaniels has been solid, but not enough to go up. But Georges Niang has struggled a little bit. He drops -2 on the roster, so 74 overall here. What's odd is they keep Dwayne Dedmon at a 76. Dedmon's production on the Heat was awful. If you factor that in, he's really down to like a 73. And then they have Paul Reed, I think, overinflated. Because I'm never a proponent of keeping starters below in overall than backups. Levi, I don't really dive into badges. In my opinion, a lot of these players that have 0 badges, should definitely have something. Like Daniel House should have something. Obviously, Jalen McDaniels needs badges. There's no excuse to have 0 badges on players that are 3 years in the league or more. There's just not. There's too much data there that you can't, miss. But that's just my opinion. Chris Middleton, Milwaukee Bucks. He drops -1 to an 85 overall. Brooke Lopez goes +1 to an 84 overall. Bobby Portis goes -1 to an 82 overall. Pat Connaughton drops -2 to a 75 overall. He's been really struggling shooting the ball, like 28% field goal percentage over the last 2 weeks. So, last change for the Milwaukee Bucks. AJ Green goes +1 to a 71 overall. He's kind of taken the backup shooting guard spot. 7 points a game, 46% field goal percentage, 55% from three since the last update. So looking good there. Lindell Wigginton got added to the roster on a two-way contract. He's been solid. He was on the roster last year for the Bucks. He's back again. Going over to the Chicago Bulls, also a two-way signing. Justin Lewis is finally getting healthy after major injury. I believe it was ACL, if I'm not mistaken. They had originally had him over the summer on a two-way. They waived him, and now they brought him back. So good to see that. For the Chicago Bulls, Dalen Terry gets a +2 to a 73. Oddly enough, Kobe White didn't go up, but Ayo Dosunmu goes -1 to a 74. I thought that was a little strange there. Pat Beverly gets a +1 to a 76. Been playing well since being in Chicago. -1 for Andre Drummond to a 78. Nikola Vucevic, -2 to an 83 overall. And then position changes for the Bulls. Zach LaVine's now the small forward. DeMar DeRozan's the power forward. They're embracing the smaller role so that way Caruso can come in at the 2 and defend wings. Let's go over to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell goes +1. Been playing well for them. Jared Allen -1 to an 84 overall. Isaac Okoro goes +1, while Karis LeVert goes -1. Ricky Rubio has been struggling. -2 for him to a 75 overall. Jetty Osman goes -1 to a 74 overall. And then Dean Wade goes -1 to a 73 overall. Sam Merrill gets a position change to shooting guard. He is known as a shooter. He's never really been a point guard. He's kind of that combo guard, so to speak. So good for 2K to acknowledge that change. Going over to the Boston Celtics, I thought Tatum, because his numbers have been down a little bit, especially shooting, would have gone down one, but he didn't. Who did go down was Robert Williams, -1 for him to an 84. Malcolm Brogdon gets a position change to point guard, while Derek White Jr. gets a position change to shooting guard. Al Horford gets a +1 to an 80 overall. He's been playing well, averaging 14 a game over the past couple weeks. Grant Williams gets his pretty much every roster update. He goes up or down. He now goes down 1 to a 76 overall. Mike Muscala gets a position change to center and a -1 to a 75, while Blake Griffin gets a -1 to a 75. I thought Griffin could go lower. That's just me. But, we'll see what happens. Peyton Pritchard goes -1 to a 73 overall. He's not been shooting it well as of late, so he got, penalized there. LA Clippers. It's interesting because they have a chance. Now they're in the 6th seed, so they have a chance to push up in the standings. Position change for Norman Powell. He goes to small forward, but he also goes down 1 in overall to a 79. Terrence Mann gets a +1 to a 78. Eric Gordon gets position change to shooting guard, and he goes up 1 to a 76. And then Marcus Morris Sr. goes -1 to a 75. The Clippers are an interesting bunch. If all healthy and they can figure out what to do with Russell Westbrook and get him under control, then they can get back to winning games. And I think they could be a sleeper in the West. Don't count them out for sure. Memphis Grizzlies. Sad news today with Steven Adams. He's out another 4 weeks. Who knows what's going to happen with John Morant in his situation. Hopefully he can get everything back on track just for his own mental health and well-being. He goes -1, John Morant does, to a 93 overall. His stats had been down a little bit percentage-wise in scoring. So that's why he got the downgrade. Jaren Jackson Jr. -1 to an 86 overall. We have Dylan Brooks just running his mouth with Draymond Green. If anybody hasn't seen Draymond Green's latest podcast where he goes in on Dylan Brooks. That was pretty funny. Dylan Brooks goes -1 to a 78 overall. Xavier Tillman goes +1 to a 77 overall. He's been really rebounding well since being put in the starting lineup. Santi Aldama -1 to a 77. I thought Luke Kennard's been shooting it well. I thought he deserved to go up, but he did not. Brandon Clark still does not have his injury designation. At this point in the season, 2K's not really doing much with injuries, I've noticed. So I have no idea what their criteria is for injuries because there were so many guys injured this year that never got the injuries and or not injured, and it's 3-4 days before they get taken off the injured list. So don't really know what their criteria is, but looks like they're not adding them. Since basically by the next ratings update, most teams will have already, not done well. Hoodie, what's up, man? I appreciate that. Appreciate the support, man. Everybody that's tuned in, sorry if I missed your messages. I'm kind of having to look to my right at my notes because I type all the notes out and put them up on Operation Sports first. So there's a written copy so I can follow it. And then that way anybody that wants to follow along can go to the Operation Sports. So sorry if I'm not replying to the messages because my screen is here and then the messages are over there. So I'm having to look to the side, so I might miss something. So I apologize if I miss your messages. But Atlanta Hawks look good under Quinn Snyder. Not they got Trae Young playing defense, which is interesting, for sure. So Kerry, no retro stuff, man. John Collins goes -1 to an 81. Overall, nothing for Sadiq Bey. I thought that was kind of weird because Bey has been really carrying the Hawks as of late. AJ Griffin goes -1 to a 76. Also, no update for Jalen Johnson, who Quinn Snyder's taken a liking to. Quinn Snyder's definitely made him his project moving forward. I'm excited to see what an offseason under Quinn Snyder can do for Jalen Johnson, maybe unlock him for next season. I do think John Collins will get traded in the offseason, so we'll see what happens there. Just a little nitpicky note for me. I tend to, when I do roster updates and stuff, like Bruno Fernando should not be over Jalen Johnson. So I would drop Fernando down like a 73, just so like the rotations kind of shake out a little bit more. Like I said, badges really need, to be touched up as well, but just seems like 2K is not really interested much in doing badge upgrades throughout the year. I think based on what John Marcus, the real 2K insider, had said, they were hovering around 50 badge upgrades combined for the season, which is not very good considering the amount of players in the NBA times this is 8 ratings updates now. So hopefully maybe they can come up with a better system to evaluate and upgrade badges or downgrade badges as the season goes for next year. Bam Adebayo for the Miami Heat goes down 1. Caleb Martin finally gets an upgrade, +1 to a 76. I would have had him a little higher. He's been playing really well. Kevin Love hasn't really looked great since coming over to the Miami Heat. Victor Oladipo gets a position change to point guard, while Max Strus gets a position change to shooting guard. He also goes down 1 in overall to a 75. Cody Zeller has been playing well since coming over, signing with the Heat. He goes +1 to a 74 overall. Oddly enough, they look to be getting Omer Yurtseven back, and so we'll see what happens. Really, to me, the Miami Heat's playoff chances rely on the health of Kyle Lowry. If they don't have Lowry, they're pretty much done, in my opinion. They'll hover around the 6, 7, 8, 9 seed. Just all depends on how much Brooklyn kind of tanks going forward. The Hawks have a chance to kind of leapfrog them, but we'll see. The Hawks kind of hit or miss some games, so you just never know. Going over the Charlotte Hornets, Terry Rozier struggled shooting the ball before his last game. I think last game he had like 26. Was struggling percentage-wise before that. He goes -2 to an 81. Gordon Hayward back up into the 80 overall club. goes +1 to an 80. Mark Williams has been playing really well. He goes +1 to a 78. Rui, no player likeness updates. Those only come in patches. The next patch should be around the first week of April. I had somebody ask me that. Hoodie, I think it was you that asked me that actually, about the likeness updates. Yeah, it'll be April. You can always look on the front screen where it says how many days are left in the season, and then you can kind of base that there's going to be a likeness update that week, anywhere from Monday to Thursday, and then that's when that'll come. So, position change for Svi Mikhailuk to small forward, as well as a position change for Bryce McGowan's to shooting guard. They basically just flip-flop in the rotation. Utah Jazz. None of the big names got a upgrade there. Yeah, Hugo, I had Satterfield on my list for updates, but yeah. We'll see what happens. Kelly Olynyk gets a +1 to a 79 overall. Oshai Agbaji goes +1 to a 75. Hoodie, I don't know, man. I wish I knew. It'd make my job a lot easier, not having to search through and do all that stuff. I don't know how Chris Dunn got missed. Chris Dunn has been phenomenal for the Jazz. He's likely to get a rest of the season contract with hopefully a contract for next year because he's an NBA player. Now that he has a little bit of a jump shot, definitely makes him that much more valuable. Simone Fontecchio goes -1 to a 73. He's in the rotation, but his numbers don't look great percentage-wise, so that's why he went down. Going over to the Sacramento Kings, light the beam. Man, they have a chance to make some, real noise. Just depends on who they play in the playoffs. I mean, if you're getting the Clippers in round one, it's over. Great story behind Sacramento, but they ain't beating the Clippers. But, say they get a team like Dallas and Luka can't stay healthy, or you get a team like Minnesota, you could beat Minnesota if you're Sacramento. So just all depends on matchups and stuff there. Chimezie Metu goes -1 to a 76. Terrence Davis -1 to a 76. We get Keegan Murray +1 to a 79. Those that don't know, Keegan Murray is closing in on the record for most three-pointers by an NBA rookie. He shoots a lot of them. Harrison Barnes +1 to an 80. Kevin Huerter +1 to a 81. Keita for the Kings has looked good in the G League, but then when he gets minutes in the NBA, it's kind of like those don't really translate. So that's probably why they're not upgrading him very much there. De'Aaron Fox gets a well-deserved +1 to an 89, now tied with Domantas Sabonis for the best overall on the team. Speaking of best overall on the team, Julius Randle goes +1 to an 88 overall. Really playing well this season, so good for him. Another player playing well now in the Sixth Man of the Year race. Emmanuel Quickley. He ends up going up and gets a bump to an 81 overall. Accidentally put that on my sheet as an 80 with a +2. Let me fix that on Operation Sports real quick before I end up forgetting. Let's see, get that 81. All right, so 81 overall for him. I thought Jericho Sims could have went down just because he's out of the rotation, but it is what it is. Isaiah Hartenstein struggled a little bit. Not really the role that he thought it was going to be with the Knicks, but he stays the same along with Derrick Rose. Obi Toppin goes -1 to a 76. He's been struggling, only averaging like 4 points a game off the bench. Moses Brown, now on a two-way contract with the New York Knicks, fits what Tom Thibodeau likes to do from the center position. Position change for Dwayne Washington Jr. to point guard. That's all the changes for the Knicks. We go over to the Lakers. We get a -1 for LeBron James. Interesting enough, LeBron is, it was the controversial 98 overall debate. Now he's down to a 97. That should make most people hopefully happy for that point. I personally would have him a tad lower than that, but that's just me. No, I'm not hating on LeBron just based on the season stats. Mo Bamba goes -1 to a 77, and then Rui Hashimura goes -1 to a 76. I don't know how Dennis Schroeder doesn't go up. He's been playing well for them lately. Same with Malik Beasley. I don't know how he didn't go up in the update. Or Troy Brown. Looks like, maybe not much has been watched of the Lakers because you certainly would have upgraded Troy Brown, who's been playing really good in the starting lineup. Beasley's been shooting it okay off the bench. He could at least went to a 77, but it is what it is. Orlando Magic, Jalen Suggs goes -1 to a 76 overall. Gary Harris -1 to a 75 overall. I thought Paolo Banchero could have went down just based on his not great shooting percentage. I think he's tired, honestly, and that's why his numbers aren't as flashy. Still averaging like 20 a game, but that three-point percentage has been terrible. Dallas Mavericks. Hopefully Luka, we'll see what happens with his injury from last night. Hopefully it's not serious. Kyrie Irving, however, goes +1 to a 91 overall. Christian Wood gets a -2 to an 82. Tim Hardaway Jr. +1 to a 78. -1 for Josh Green to a 77. And then all the way down, Justin Holiday gets a +1 to a 73. Position update for Markieff Morris, who's now a power forward in the game. Going over to the Brooklyn Nets. Mikal Bridges gets a +2 to an 87, averaging like 26 a game since joining the Nets. Look really good. Nick Claxton's been struggling lately. Only like 8 points, 10 rebounds. Down scoring-wise, obviously. He goes -1 to an 84. Cam Thomas, limited role for him, only in a microwave role, which is very limited at that. Goes -1 to a 78. -1 for Seth Curry to a 77 overall. Position update for him to point guard. We get a position upgrade for Edmund Sumner as well. Can you see how much Kyrie's 3? I keep forgetting about that. Appreciate that reminder. I keep forgetting to switch over to the ratings instead of the grades before I do these. So sorry about that, anybody watching. -1 for Joe Harris for the Brooklyn Nets. Denver Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr. gets a bump, +1 to an 83 overall. So interesting enough. Thomas Bryant goes -2 to a 77 overall. Reggie Jackson, 75 overall, -1 for him. And then Jeff Green gets a +1 to a 75 overall. I thought Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been playing well. I thought he deserved an upgrade, at least +1, but 2K thought otherwise. Going over to the Pacers, +1 for Tyrese Halliburton to an 89, +1 for Miles Turner to an 85, -1 for Aaron Nesmith to a 76, +1 to a 76 for Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith's been kind of weird because he goes from being in the rotation to out of the rotation because Jordan Nwora has been playing well. Nwora goes +2 to a 75 overall. Well-deserved for him, definitely. New Orleans Pelicans. I thought that CJ McCollum would have went down in this update, but no downgrade for him. Only 2 updates for the Pelicans. Trey Murphy III goes down 1 to a 78 overall, and then all the way down, Kira Lewis Jr. goes +1 to a 73 overall. Pelicans are pretty much toast, I think, if they don't get Zion and Alvarado and Larry Nance back before the play-in or playoffs, whatever they make. They're not going to last very long without those guys. So that's just my opinion. Detroit Pistons, Bojan Bogdanovic goes -1 to an 82 overall. He's likely to be shut down for the year with the Achilles stuff. They don't want him to get a major injury, especially at his age. Jaden Ivey goes +2 to an 81 overall. Really been playing well since taking over the lead ball handling role. Marvin Bagley, the third, goes +1 to a 79. He's been playing well since coming back from injury for them. James Wiseman gets a +2 to a 77 overall as well. Yeah, Rui. I don't like to talk crap about other YouTubers, but to be honest, um, some of them just skim over the box scores. Let's just put it that way. That's all I'll say. It is what it is. Oh yeah, with Brandon Ingram, I thought he could go +1, personally, because I mean, if you're going to put somebody like a Brad Beal at an 87, you got to put Ingram. That's just me, but it is what it is. I don't make the ratings, so. R.J. Hampton gets a position change to shooting guard. He goes -1 to a 75. Hamidou Diallo's out for the season with an ankle injury. Isaiah Livers goes to a +1 to a 73 overall. Small forward for him. Position change. He's likely to play a ton if Bogdanovich is out. Livers gives you good defense. That's what I like the most about him. If you watch the games, he's playing hard. He gets in the right positions to guard guys. He can hit that three-pointer too. So I'm a fan of his. Eugene Amaruri, I wouldn't be shocked if they signed him for the rest of the season. He's been in the rotation the last 2 games and played well in those. We'll see what happens. We go over to the Toronto Raptors. Pascal Siakam goes -1. I think this is more for he hasn't scored as much as he was scoring earlier. His numbers took a little slight dip overall. And if you look around the 23-point average he has over the past couple weeks, that's around the 87 range. So that's probably why the drop. -1 for Fred VanVleet and Scotty Barnes, both to an 83. -1 for OG Anunoby, who struggled lately, to an 81 overall. Jakob Poeltl goes +1 to an 80. I don't know what Jakob Poeltl has to do to get over. Like, it took this long to get to an 80. I don't know what he's going to have to do to get to like an 81, 82. He's been great as a defensive anchor for this defense. Really helped the inside presence. They're just not winning games like I think a lot of people thought they were going to. Thaddeus Young goes -1 to a 76. All the way down at the bottom, Jeff Doughton gets an upgrade +2. He's been in the rotation actually over Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton as the backup there for them. So interesting enough. We'll see if he gets minutes. Announced this morning, so it wasn't in this update. Yes, good comparison, Rui. Livers is the new Sadiq Bey. Yeah, that's probably why they got rid of Sadiq Bey. They didn't need to pay him in the offseason because he's going to be looking for a big contract. If I'm Atlanta, I scoop him up on that contract because I like him and Jalen Johnson, move John Collins, and then reconfigure that team around to what Quinn Snyder would want. But like I was saying this morning for the Rockets, the 10-day contract for Willie Cauley-Stein ended. We'll see if they sign him back to another one. Deshaun Nix has been in the rotation. He goes +1. He doesn't shoot well at all. Still a project, but it's either him or Ty Washington, and they've gone with Nix a bunch to try to develop him. Usman Garuba in the rotation as well. He goes +1 to a 75. Good rebounder, hustle guy. No drop for Frank Kaminsky, who I think is still overrated. Somebody that I think might get, dropped at, some point, waived. DDT, appreciate that. Thank you so much. Jabari Smith Jr., it's just interesting with him. He doesn't shoot it well, but I don't think he's been in a position to get the spots that he's usually accustomed to. Now he's developed bad habits, and that's what you have to look for going into the next season. Is he going to be able to turn that around? He has bad body language a lot of the time, too. He sulks. Not too keen on what I've seen there. But he goes -1 to a 76. Tari Eason is the other way. A lot of people thought he'd be a problem coming in and all that stuff. He's been really good for them. Hustle guy, just does the dirty work and lets his play speak for itself. He goes +1 to a 79 overall. Kevin Porter Jr. Goes -1 to an 80 overall. And then Alperen Sengun goes -2 to an 83 overall. Going over to the Spurs, they have some changes here for them. Yeah, that's true, Rui. Like Jabari Smith Jr. is not playing up to his potential, but I think a lot of that has to do with not having a true traditional point guard, because the both Rockets guards, Porter Jr. and Green, like the ISO and then only pass when it's an emergency. I think Porter Jr. could pass, but he's always looking to score and dribble the air out of the ball. So I'm not a huge fan of those kind of guards personally. But Devin Vassell goes -1 to an 82 for the Spurs. Jeremy Sochan goes +1 to a 77. No upgrade for Zach Collins. That was interesting, to see that. Keita Bates dropped +1 as well to a 76. Devontae Graham +1 to a 76. What's up, Josh? Charles Bassey goes +1 to a 75. He's been in the rotation, playing decently well. Kem Birch is out basically probably for the year with that knee. I don't think it's going to heal enough to play. Let's see. Blake Wesley goes +1 to a 71. It is what it is. I don't know if it's the hater update, but I mean, there's a downgrade legitimate on the players. If you look at percentages and stuff like that, they're basing it off of a sample size of 7-8 games. So you got to look at that too. Like that's how 2K does it, based on percentages and stuff like that. So that's what they're looking at, like the counting stats and stuff like that. So Dominic Barlow has been decent in and out of the rotation in spot minutes, goes +2 to a 68 overall. It comes down to, 2K has a lot of work to do on the badges. Let's just say that. That would change a lot of overalls for players. Yeah, Hoodie, that's a good way to explain it. The downgrades are for players that have underperformed. Like, yeah, that's a good, simple way to put it. That's a good way. Appreciate that. Phoenix Suns. Where I'd be concerned right now is that Kevin Durant injury, and if I'm whoever mopped that floor, they're fired. Because Kevin Durant, the way he slipped, and when he slipped, if you saw that ankle roll all the way to the side, that's a good 2 to 3 week injury at least. They can't afford that 2 to 3 weeks, because if you're Phoenix, you were looking at, hey, let's jump to the 3rd seed at least, and then that way you get the 2-3 matchup. You might get Sacramento in that second round instead of having to see somebody else like Golden State or whoever it is in the first round. Because you could get bounced in the first round and you got KD, Booker, Ayton, and Chris Paul. Like, that's crazy. But you're playing a Golden State team that could get hot real quick, whatever. And it's like, why are you not taking care of your best player, essentially? I'm not sleeping, Josh. I'm not sleeping on Sacramento. I think they have a great coach in Mike Brown for what they want to do. But they aren't playoff tested. That's the only thing. There's a whole different animal when it comes to the playoffs. Whether you played high school, college, and of course the NBA, when you get to those playoffs, teams scout totally different for you than what they did in the regular season. Like, it is what it is. Like, we'll see. Kevin Durant gets a position change to power forward. We don't know how long he's going to be out, though. Josh Okogie goes +2 to a 78. -1 for TJ Warren. Position change to... no, I don't know that he had a position change, honestly. I can't remember if he might have. I'll have to double check that. I think he did, actually. To small forward. He is a -1 to a 78 as well. Cam Payne drops to a 76 overall. -1 for him. That's what I thought, Hugo. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know why I was second guessing myself. I should have just went with my gut. Um, yeah, Aramis, they could be second round, 6 games. It just all depends on the matchup. Um, what am I thinking of? Torrey Craig goes -1 to a 75. What I don't like, and I said this earlier in the video, I don't like that Darius Baisley's behind Torrey Craig in the rotation, but he's ahead of him overall wise. If you started a my NBA right now, Craig is going to be not playing, and Baisley would play those minutes. So that's why I'm a proponent of making sure the overalls stick. OKC Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 94 overall +1. Jalen Williams is the biggest mover of this entire update, +4 for him to an 82 overall. That is crazy. 82 overall, +4. But he has 0 badges. 0. I don't get it, man. Like, how do you not add badges? That tells me that the intangibles rating, he's overinflated. There's no way he's an 88 speed. Have you watched OKC play and see that Jalen Williams is like a shifty guard that kind of brings it up at his own pace? He ain't an 88. That means he's faster than Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't get it. Isaiah Joe goes +1 to a 78, shooting it well. Yeah, I don't know what the badges are based on. Yeah, it's just crazy to me. Dario Saric gets a position change to center. He's been the backup behind Jalen Williams. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is now the power forward. Plays spot minutes. He's in and out of the rotation. He goes -1 to a 75. I mean, Jalen Williams has good speed, but he's not an 88. I don't see him running down the court at 88 speed. Like, I just don't get it. When you have Tyrese Maxey, rated, I believe Maxey is, let's see, I believe Maxey is under him in speed. No, he's over him. Okay. But he's only one higher. And there's a big difference between Jalen Williams and Tyrese Maxey's speed. Tyrese Maxey could be like a 92 then, if you're going to base it on that. But let's jump back to the ratings before I get too off track. Aaron Wiggins goes +1 to a 74 overall. Ousmane Dieng goes to power forward, position change for him. He goes +1 to a 73. Been playing really well. Averaging like 11 a game, I believe, since being in the rotation. Yeah, Harden should have definitely went up, Josh. I said that earlier when I was covering them. One thing I don't like also is when you have a two-way player that high at a 74. Jared Butler was struggling with the Utah Jazz previously. I don't think he should be a 74. That's just me. Position change for Wendell Moore Jr. to small forward for the Timberwolves. -1 for Jordan McLaughlin to a 73. How did Austin Rivers not go down? Austin Rivers is shooting like 22% from the floor. Has not looked good at all, but he doesn't go down, but McLaughlin does. Also going down is Taurean Prince, -1 to a 74. +1 for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's taken over the backup shooting guard spot since Jalen Noel has been out. He goes +1 to a 76. Speaking of Jalen Noel, he switches to point guard off the bench. Yes, Josh, a lot of the centers are still overinflated, unfortunately. Naz Reid goes +1 to a 79. And then we get Anthony Edwards goes -1 to an 86 overall. Portland Trailblazers, Damian Lillard +2 gets an upgrade to a 95 where he should have been like 2 updates ago. We now have a healthy Yusuf Nurkic. Going over to Matisse Thybulle, gets a +1 to a 77. Nasir Little +1 to a 77. Cam Reddish gets a +2 to a 76. He's been playing well, 15 points a game, 40% field goal percentage, like 49% from three, I believe as well. And then that's the changes for Portland. They have a chance. I mean, I wouldn't write Portland off. They have a chance to sneak into the play-in. It just depends. I don't think they get to the playoffs, but the play-in is obtainable. Golden State Warriors. We all know what happens with the Golden State Warriors. A lot of the guys don't get upgrades or downgrades. They take a while to do. I thought Jordan Poole is a little overinflated. Jordan Poole, to me, if you've watched the Warriors games, he's frustrating because he makes a lot of bad plays, and then he gets a couple highlight plays that make him look good. And it's like a super scorer that still has a lot of maturing to do on the court. So we'll see. Golden State's going to need a great version of Jordan Poole if they want to go deep into the playoffs. I'll say that. They also need a healthy Draymond Green who's engaged on defense. So Dante DiVincenzo +1 to a 77. He's been starting with Wiggins out. Jonathan Kuminga has been playing well as well. +1 to a 76 overall. We get no downgrade for Andre Iguodala. They will never downgrade that guy. Ty Jerome goes -1 to a 75. We get a position change for Anthony Lamb to power forward. -1 for him. Patrick Baldwin +2. He's been playing well to a 72 overall for him. It's about to be time for Lester Canones to be out of his 10-day contract. We'll see if they re-sign him or go another direction. And last but not least for this update, the Washington Wizards. I thought Bradley Beal has been playing well lately. I thought he deserved to go up one, but no update for him. No position change for Porzingis and Kuzma either. Those two have been playing down a position, so Porzingis playing the power forward, Kuzma playing the small forward, but no position changes for them. The only two changes on the roster for the Wizards is DeLon Wright's been starting, averaging like 11 a game, passing the ball well, getting everybody involved, playing good defense. He goes +2 to a 78. And then Corey Kispert's been shooting it really well, 55% from the floor. Been doing well, shooting the three over 50% as well. 76 overall, +1 for him. The Wizards are just frustrating because they have the potential to be a play-in team through and through. We'll see if they get there on the backs of Porzingis and Beal and Kuzma. Need a healthy Monte Morris, definitely, to see how far they can go. But all in all, it wasn't a major update. There was no like super huge movers or downgrades. Really, Jalen Williams is the one that everybody will probably say is the biggest mover just because of how well he's been playing for the Thunder. If you don't watch the Thunder, you're not going to notice that because the national media doesn't talk about it enough. Damian Lillard getting an upgrade is another one that people will be talking about for sure. I hope that 2K doesn't get backlash on Ja Morant and his downgrade because they'll think that it's because of the trouble. It's not. If you look at his stats, they were down a little bit. And so that's in line with a 93. Because if you're going to have somebody like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's averaging 37 or 36 over the last couple weeks. Ja Morant's averaging like 25 points a game. Then you'd have to drop him a little bit. But, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this update. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I don't know. Like I said, not a major mover, stuff like that. Appreciate that, big man Sam. You too, man. Not a big movers update and stuff like that, but definitely badges are where 2K has to really take a hard look. Because if you look at like key players across the board, like that don't have badges, like Walker Kessler is one that doesn't have badges. but he's an 81 overall. Keegan Murray doesn't have badges. Um, no badges for like Josh Green, who's a defensive ace. Um, Nothing for Tari Eason, who's a defensive ace. Like, it's crazy to me. And then you get like Jalen Williams, who gets a bump to 82, and he gets no badges. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And then there's badge upgrades and stuff that, you know, needed as well. Hugo, I have him on the list. My personal recommendation when I sent my feedback was to take Anthony Davis off and put Pau Gasol on the Lakers all-time team, but, I haven't seen an update, so who knows. But if everybody watching, all 25 plus of you, could you do me a favor and hit that like button real quick? I'd really, really appreciate it. Please, please, please hit that like button. Hit the sub button if you haven't already. This is the kind of content I bring. Ratings update, roster updates, player likeness updates, custom roster stuff, things like that. Michael Curry is in. He's in the 02 era roster officially on the Pistons. But yes, please like, subscribe, tell some friends about my channel. I really, really appreciate the support. I'm trying to get over 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. So, being my first year of content, basically going plus 850 subscribers in the last, from September to now, I think is a pretty good accomplishment, considering I just do this part-time. I really appreciate everybody's support, everybody's comments. I always try to engage as much as I can. I will probably not be back until next week unless we see a retro update. I'm not holding my breath, to be honest, just because 2K has been extra slow about the retro content. We have a lot of guys that need to go in. Calderon, Luol Deng, Liddell Eccles, Mike McGee, Marc Gasol, a bunch of stuff needing to be added throughout. So hopefully that'll come soon. I've asked, but don't get a definitive answer on it either way. But hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week and their weekend. Stay safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.